This is worksheet number 2. And this is going to be going over the lymphatic organs and the tissue. So some anatomy of the lymphatic system. So it's going to be pretty boring, I think. But yeah. So, but basically the three, actually it's not too bad. The 3 lymphatic organs are your lymph nodes, your thymus, and your spleen. So the thing is about the big takeaway with lymphatic organs is that they're encapsulated lymphatic tissue. So they have like a capsule around them. You know, they're like an organ, so to speak. So your lymph nodes are distributed all throughout your body, and your spleen is kind of, I can't remember what side it is, but it's in there. It's in your abdomen. Yeah, splenal pain. Yeah, this area. Thanks. And then, so what about your thymus? Where is this? Yep. Yeah, you're thinking thyroid. Yeah, your thymus is right behind your heart. So, and I read an article one time that said like when you hug people, like and when your breastbones touch, that it increases your lymph flow because it stimulates your thymus. That's total BS. But hugs are nice anyway. I think hugs improve your immunity because it relieves your stress. You know, it doesn't have anything to do with breastbone. I'm like, what? But so that doesn't make any sense. Exactly. But if that helps you remember where the thymus is, I guess it's oh my gosh. So the big thing about MALT, M-A-L-T, mucosa-associated lymphoid tissue, these are unencapsulated. So these don't have capsules around them. You know, they don't have a capsule, so it's just the tissue is just kind of exposed. And this is in your digestive system, your urinary, your respiratory, and your reproductive tract. So you have your tonsils in your respiratory, right, which get nice, big, and inflamed whenever you have like strep throat or something. You have your appendix, where's your appendix? It attaches to your large intestine. Yeah, so in your abdomen. And if that like explodes or ruptures, you're in trouble. So, yeah, it's like a... What's that?
No, I said attached with the big testing, large testing.
Mm-hmm.
And like, because like the whole testing
Colon. Yep, your colon. Yep. Yeah, your whole large intestine is the colon, and it's also known as like your vermiform appendix, and that's more scientific because vermiform means worm. It's like this little part that it's whatever. Your Peyer's patches, which are in your digestive system, and then you just have other lymph nodules, other lymph nodules throughout. So that's that. And it's called MALT. So if you see MALT, it's talking about basically the lymphatic tissue that doesn't have a capsule on it. It's not talking about like a drink or something. So like malts, those are good. So lymph nodes contain B cells, T cells, and macrophages. This is true. This next one is reviewing the anatomy of the lymph vessel in relation to the lymph node. So the statement is saying there is only one afferent lymphatic vessel and many afferent lymphatic vessels. And this is false, right? Because when you have your lymph node, you have many efferent, or afferent. So afferent, A-E-F-F-E-R, means it's flowing to the lymph node, right? Because it's flowing from all over the body. So many afferent and only one efferent. So you only have one output. Yeah, A before E. I like that. A before E. So it's just, helping with that. So where are lymph nodes never found? So they're found in the cervical region, which is in your neck, right? And a lot of people, which I find interesting, they associate cervical with like cervix, which is like attached to the uterus, but actually the cervix is the neck of the uterus. So cervical means neck. So if you see that, it's not talking about the reproductive. Your inguinal region, which is like your groin, your axillary region, which is like the armpit. But the only place lymphatic vessels are your CNS. Yeah, we don't want any inflammation or nothing in there. So that's important. 2 centers for lymphocyte production: red bone marrow, your lymph nodes. Red bone marrow, remember, produces your white blood cells like your eosinophils, your macrophages, your basophils, your neutrophils. That's all in your red bone marrow. Your lymph nodes are the ones that produce your lymphocytes. What is the function of lymph nodes? All of the above. Lymph nodes filter out pathogens. Lymph nodes surveillance the body fluids with macrophages and lymphocytes. And lymph nodes also produce lymphocytes. So if you didn't understand it, a lymph node is like a police station, police academy, a jail area. And if a pathogen enters, it's not allowed to leave. So your lymph nodes filter out the chemicals, or filter out the pathogens, or the criminals, pathogens. Lymphocytes are like the policemen who surveillance the street, and lymph nodes produce lymphocytes. So kind of like a police station produces new policemen. Lymph nodes produce lymphocytes, so if that helps. T cell maturation occurs in the cortex of the thymus gland. This is false. So the cortex is the outside, but T cells are actually produced in the medulla, the inside of the thymus gland. So if you get a question about what lymphatic organ, gland, is also an endocrine gland, like one that produces hormones, it's your thymus. The medulla of your thymus produces T cells, but the cortex of your thymus produces thymosin, I think is what it's called. Yeah, thymosin. And thymosin is hormones that help stimulate T cell maturation, so it helps with your immune system, but the hormones are from the cortex or from the outside, but the actual cell is from the inside, from the medulla. So I could see that being like, where are lymphocytes, where are T cells, matured? And it's like, you can't just put thymus because where in the thymus? So, and then both T cells and thymosin start out as thymocytes. So if you see the word thymocytes, which you probably won't see, but that's just if you see it in your book. The thymus gland shrinks as we age. This is true. So when we're born, we're helpless, and our thymus gland is huge. It's giant because it's like, we need to protect the body. But then as you get older, it degenerates, and this is why old people have like worse immune systems. So something interesting also is when you get older, your immune system starts to like go away. So when you get sick, or whenever we take care of older people and they get sick, they don't have fevers. So, and the main indication that an old person has an infection is confusion. If they're confused, they had an infection. Yeah, but because they don't have fevers, they don't get the high temperature, they don't get any of the immune response because they don't have the immune cells to respond. They don't produce any. So that's pretty neat. So at some point in time, this thymus gland also turns into adipose and connective tissue. So it just becomes a tissue that doesn't do anything. The spleen is the largest lymphatic organ that filters blood, like lymph nodes, but spleen is huge. And just remember, there's 2 portions of the spleen. There's red pulp and white pulp. The red pulp is responsible for red blood cell deconstruction and storage, and the white pulp is more for the lymphocyte. So think about red pulp, red blood cells, white pulp, white blood cells, lymphocytes. So if you see different pulp, that's what it's talking about. What is false about the spleen? The spleen is not tough or strong. The spleen is actually, I forgot what it is. What is it? What kind of tissue is a spleen? It's very fibrous. It's very fragile. Oh my goodness, it's not coming to me. I'm gonna look it up. White pulp and red pulp. Ay. It's a certain, I think it starts with an E. I mean, it has connective tissue, but it's also like, oh well, I can't find it. But if you see it in your reading, it's very fragile.
I was thinking of endothelium, aren't you?
Endothelium? No. It's like if you punch it, if someone punches your spleen, it will explode. It'll rupture. But I'm like, gosh, what is the name of it? What makes it? Because it's very fine. You know, if you look under a microscope at a spleen, it's very fine threading. So that's something else too. If your spleen is, if your liver is damaged, you can get a liver implant or your liver will grow, or something else too. If you get your kidney removed, your other kidney will get bigger to compensate for that. But if something happens to your spleen, that's it. Same thing with your appendix. You can't replace that. So it's very, very fragile. A damaged spleen is typically removed completely, and it can be due to left side trauma or an infection. However, all these other statements are true about the spleen. The spleen stores iron from recycled red blood cells. The spleen is a hemolytic organ along with the liver. So hemolytic, heme meaning blood, and lytic meaning cutting. So the spleen cuts red blood cells or damaged red blood cells, destroys them. And then the spleen also stores extra red blood cells and produces lymphocytes. Again, you've got your red pulp, your white pulp. And then your spleen also initiates the immune response. So this is going to bother. I'm going to think about this all weekend until I can figure it out. But what is the spleen made of? Anyway, so there are many pathogens that causes diseases in the body, but the main ones is bacteria, viruses, and fungi. You also have your worms and your protozoa. You have a lot of things, but bacteria, fungus, virus, and fungi are the big ones. And I believe, any questions on what we just went over? Okay, well that concludes worksheet number 2.